everyone, this is Samantha at As They Grow Up, and today I want to talk to you guys about a subject that's part of the virtual homeschool co-op. And this was a topic that was number 4, and I actually chose to skip it and went to number 5, as you guys might be familiar with last week. However, when I skipped number 4, it's because we live in an area to where we don't really have a lot of concern as far as flooding, because we live in the mountains. So as far as flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes, things of that nature, we don't, as in the big picture, we don't really have to deal with that type of thing. So anyway, I wasn't able to really answer those questions or to give any input. However, I'm not sure if you guys have heard, but we live in Western North Carolina, and right now we are in the worst drought in history at this point. And over the course of the past week and a half, there have been forest fires that have been started in our surrounding area. Now, the sad part is that these didn't happen on their own. There's actually an investigation. The Forest Service is pretty sure that it's arson and someone is going out and setting these fires. And those that are familiar know that the mountains that surround Western North Carolina, Pisgah National Forest, Nantahala National Forest, the Smoky Mountains, they're absolutely gorgeous mountains, and there are fire in every one of these mountains. So reality has hit home to where I said that we really didn't have to worry about this. Times have switched, and now this is something of concern. In our small town, over the course of the last 4 days, there has been mandatory evacuations because we have no rain and the fires are getting worse. And these guys, the firefighters, you know, we pray for them every day that God will protect them, but without rain, there's no controlling these fires. And so sadly, people are starting to have to evacuate because there is no way to stop these fires. And that's when it dawned on me that we need to really start thinking about what we're going to do in a situation, because we may have to evacuate. I mean, it's something that, you know, we never thought would ever happen in our area. We have never had to evacuate due to forest fires, and we've never had fires like this in our area. So this is a first all the way around. So it got me thinking, what if we had to evacuate? What would we take? Well, obviously we can't take the whole house. And there are some things, of course, that you would want to take, because the evacuations, they have been given a day. They have been letting us know in advance possible places that are going to have to evacuate. And so at that time, you can start gathering your stuff. They also have curfews that they are setting in place for certain roads. Some roads have been closed. So this is something that is very serious, and we have to really take into consideration. And while I'm sitting here thinking, knowing that we obviously can't take everything, and we would not have to immediately evacuate, we would have at least a couple of hours or a day to evacuate. What would we take? Now, being that we're homeschoolers, and I'm sure most of you are like this too, you have curriculum that you have bought up, or curriculum that you've used over the years, and books that are very precious to you and things like that, that you would hate to see something happen. But when it comes down to it, and you can only take so much, what do you take? Well, with us, I keep a notebook, and I'll show you that in a minute, but in my notebook is some of their work that we're working on now, but it also is our attendance records. I keep our shot records, because in North Carolina we are required to keep attendance records, and we are required to keep shot records. So I do keep those in our binder. We also have a special place set aside that we keep birth certificates, we keep social security cards, and things like that. So basically, these are our files we can grab and go. As far as the books go, now obviously I can't take everything. We have 4 or 5 bookshelves full of books. And some of them are past curriculum. Some of these are curriculums I brought up for later years. Some of these, like everyone else, we have an abundance of different things that we would use. Resources. But for me, the most important thing was knowing that if I had to evacuate, the last thing I would want to have to do would be, especially if we had a loss of a home, would be having to go in and purchase new curriculum for this year. We would need time to get back up on our feet. So with that being said, is what I have done is the boys' school that they're currently working on, we put them in those little crates. Those, I think they're like $3 or $4 at Walmart, and they're little crates, and that's where they keep their books anyway. So if all else fails and we had to go, along with their school books that they're currently doing, there's also resources and things like that I have stuck in there. So we can basically grab it and go. That's what we've chose to do in case of an emergency. We have those. Okay, and then here is a look of just, this is one of the crates. And, you know, I've got next year's, this is Luke's one that I'm showing you right now. Davis's is a little bit different. But like for Luke's, I've got even his next year's language arts is in here. I've got, you know, science for the next year. I've got our science now. This is an extra resource we're using as part of our history. We've got our spelling. So everything's in here. So basically, this is some extra resources in this book. Attendance records and things like that. So basically this is how I've got them laid out. This is our geography for this year. So with the handles, we can just pick it up and go with it. And then also, because they have their other stuff, this one's handy too. Pick it up and go. Their pencil box, crayons inside their pencil box. They have their scissors. Well, basically everything you keep in a pencil box. Tape, you name it, it's there. Their rulers, an abundance of pencils. So things like this just make it so much easier. If we did have to leave, we could at least grab the things that we would be using for the remainder of this year. So we would at least have that. And then here's Davis's. His isn't quite as neat as Luke, so we would definitely have to organize his. He didn't put his up the way he's supposed to put it up yesterday. But to give you a look, I mean, these are some of his next year resources, this year's resources as well. Here's his pencil box. It's not in his container. You can probably guess which child is neater here by looking at this. You know, and he's even got his globe. So, you know, if all else fails, he can grab it. All his school stuff is right here, and it's ready to grab and go, the same as Luke's is ready to grab and go. And then these, I'm not sure if you guys caught where I had organized some of our school stuff, but these take up two of our things here, our shelves. And one of these just has resources that we use every day. This has got, you know, it's got some glue, it's got crafting stuff, it's got everything that we use in a day. Generally, we have one bin that we go and pull from. And that would be the bin that I would pull and take as far as that went. So that is basically it. That's how we have ours laid out. They do have books they're currently reading, and you know, obviously those books they would grab and just toss on the top of their crate. They usually keep them either on their crate, or since they are reading them, they'll leave them on the end table because it's an easy grab for them when they get ready to read. And then, as I mentioned, I have a notebook where I keep our shot records and our attendance records. I keep our, you know, our schedule, which of course if we had to evacuate, that would, the schedule would be the least of our worries. But those are just some things that we had thought of. And I know it's not a lot, but, you know, that goes to show that we can't foresee the future. Because, you know, as I mentioned, this was something that I passed up. Because living in an area that we live, we've never had to deal with that. Because higher elevation and things like that. But sadly, the forest fires are taking over our forests. And it's a real concern. We've already had people that we know that's had to evacuate their homes because of this. You know, we pray that God will watch over us. And, you know, our town had a prayer on the town square last night, praying for rain, because as of right now, there is no rain in sight. And it's just a sad situation. So for those of you that are watching us, please remember us in your prayers, that not only will we have rain, but that these firemen and women out there, you know, that God watches over them. And also pray for the people who have already had to evacuate and some that may actually lose their homes. So thank you all for taking the time to watch this video.